Good evening. Or is it morning where you are? I never know anymore. Time has a way of folding in on itself when you spend your days listening to voices from the past. My name is Evelyn Brooks, and for those of you just finding this station, welcome. This is Echoes of 1970, a place where forgotten stories find their voice again. Tonight, I'm holding something I've carried with me for 3 years now. A cassette tape, a letter, and a photograph of a young man who came home from a war, only to discover that home had disappeared while he was gone. His name was Marcus Reid. No one knew why Marcus stayed silent that day at the bus station, but deep down, they knew something was ending. The bus pulled into Greenwood, Mississippi, on a Tuesday afternoon in March 1973. Marcus Reid was 24 years old, wearing a uniform that still smelled like smoke and red clay, carrying a duffel bag that weighed less than the silence inside him. He'd been gone 2 years, 4 months, and 16 days. He'd counted every single one. The bus station hadn't changed. Same cracked tile floor, same Coca-Cola machine humming in the corner, same wooden benches worn smooth by decades of waiting. But something felt wrong. The air tasted different. Or maybe it was just him. Marcus stepped off the bus, boots hitting the pavement with a sound that felt too loud, too real. And that's when he saw her. A woman standing by the station entrance, hands clasped in front of her, wearing a yellow dress he'd never seen before. She was looking right at him. But it wasn't Angela. Wait, don't miss this detail. The woman's name was Ruth Peterson, Angela's older sister. Marcus knew her, of course, had seen her at church, at family dinners, at the 4th of July picnic where he'd first kissed Angela, behind the oak tree near the lake. But Ruth had never looked at him like this before, like she was afraid. "Marcus," she said, and her voice cracked on his name. He stood there, duffel bag sliding off his shoulder, heart beginning to hammer against his ribs in a rhythm he recognized from the jungle. The rhythm that meant danger. Danger. Something's wrong. "Where's Angela?" he asked. Ruth's eyes filled with tears, and Marcus Reid, who had survived mortar fire and monsoons, and nights so dark he couldn't see his own hands, felt the ground shift beneath him. You see, what Marcus didn't know, what no one had told him because his letters had stopped reaching home 3 months earlier, lost somewhere between Saigon and the Mississippi Delta, was that Angela Monroe had vanished. She'd been gone since December. Ruth drove Marcus to the Monroe house in silence, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tight, her knuckles went white. Through the window, Marcus watched Greenwood slide past, the hardware store, the church, the high school where he and Angela had graduated together in 1967. Everything looked smaller than he remembered. Or maybe he'd just gotten used to big emptiness. "Tell me," he finally said. Ruth pulled the car over to the side of the road, right there by Miller's Creek, where the water ran slow and brown. She turned off the engine. For a long moment, she just stared straight ahead. "December 15th, she said. Angela worked the evening shift at the diner. She left at 11 p.m., said she was driving straight home. Marcus waited. She never made it. But the most shocking part was yet to come. They found her car 2 days later," Ruth continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "parked at the old train depot, the one that's been abandoned since '68, keys still in the ignition, her purse on the passenger seat, wallet, ID, money, all there. And Angela?" Ruth finally turned to look at him. Gone. Like she just stepped out of her life and walked away. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. The police. Sheriff Dawson said she probably ran off, said she'd been acting strange the last few months. Distant. Kept asking about you, about when you'd be home, if you'd... Ruth's voice broke. "If you'd still want her." Still want her? Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "I wrote her every week, every single week, Ruth. I told her." "She stopped getting your letters in October." Silence. "What?" "The letters stopped coming. She waited by the mailbox every day, Marcus, every single day, and then they just stopped." Even now, Marcus was still holding on, but not for much longer. Marcus got out of the car. He walked down to the edge of Miller's Creek and stood there, staring at the water. Ruth stayed in the car, giving him space he didn't want. His letters had reached Angela. He knew they had. He'd sent 43 of them. 43 carefully written pages telling her about the heat and the rain, and the boys in his unit, and how much he missed the way she laughed. He'd told her he loved her. Over and over and over. If she'd stopped getting those letters? Marcus pulled out his wallet with shaking hands. Inside, folded small, and read so many times the creases had gone soft, was the last letter he'd received from Angela. Dated October 3rd, 1972. Dearest Marcus, I miss you so much it hurts to breathe sometimes. I keep your picture next to my bed, and I talk to you every night before I sleep. I know you're coming home soon. You said maybe by Christmas. I'm counting the days, my love. I'm counting every single one. There's something I need to tell you when you get here. Something important. But I want to say it to your face, not in a letter. I want to see your eyes when I tell you. I love you, Marcus Reid. I love you with everything I am. Wait for me. Forever yours, Angela. That's when everything changed. Marcus read the letter again. And again. There's something I need to tell you. Something important. What had she needed to tell him? He folded the letter carefully, put it back in his wallet, and walked back to the car. Take me to Sheriff Dawson, he said. Ruth looked at him, and for the first time, he saw something other than pity in her eyes. Hope. Sheriff Tom Dawson was 56 years old, had held his position for 14 years, and had exactly zero interest in reopening the Angela Monroe case. Marcus knew this within 5 minutes of sitting in his office. Son, Dawson said, leaning back in his chair with the kind of casual authority men get when they've never been seriously challenged. I understand you're upset, but we investigated thoroughly. Girl ran off. It happens. Marcus kept his voice level. Her car was found at the depot. Keys in the ignition. Yep. You think she ran off and left her car running? I think she made it look like something happened to cover her tracks. Dawson picked up a pencil, tapped it against his desk. Girl was seeing someone else. That's what I heard. The words hung in the air like gunpowder. Who told you that? Marcus asked quietly. Small town, son. People talk. Who told you that? Dawson's eyes narrowed. You threatening me, boy? Boy. Marcus had been called worse. Much worse. Often by men pointing guns at him. But something about the way Dawson said it. Casual, dismissive, like Marcus was still a child who needed permission to speak, made his hands curl into fists. I'm asking a question, Marcus said, and I'd appreciate an answer. You won't believe what happened next. Dawson stood up. He was a big man, used to being the biggest man in the room. But Marcus had spent 2 years learning how to stay still under pressure, how to keep his body loose and ready, how to read the space between what a man says and what he means. I think you should leave, Dawson said. Go on home, see your mama. She's been worried sick, and stop asking questions that don't have good answers. Marcus didn't move. What aren't you telling me? Excuse me? You investigated for what, 3 days? Found her car, talked to some folks, then decided she ran off. That's not an investigation. That's a story. Dawson's jaw tightened. Watch yourself. Who was she supposedly seeing? I said, who? The pencil snapped in Dawson's hand. For a long moment, neither man moved. Then Dawson walked to the door and opened it. Danny, he called out. A young man appeared in the doorway. Couldn't have been more than 22, wearing a deputy's uniform that looked too new. He had kind eyes and the nervous energy of someone trying very hard to do the right thing. Yes, sir? Escort Mr. Reid out of the building. The young deputy, Danny, looked between them, clearly uncomfortable. Sir, Now, Danny. Danny met Marcus's eyes, and something passed between them. Recognition, or maybe just shared youth. Come on, Danny said quietly. I'll walk you out. What you've heard so far is only the beginning. Outside the station, Danny walked Marcus to the sidewalk, then stopped. Wait here a second, he said. He disappeared back inside, and Marcus stood there in the afternoon sun, feeling the weight of his uniform, the stares of people passing by, the strange sensation of being home and not home at the same time. Danny came back out 2 minutes later, glanced around to make sure no one was watching, and handed Marcus a folded piece of paper. "I was on patrol the night her car was found," Danny said, voice low. "I wrote down everything I saw before the sheriff told me to stop asking questions, everything that didn't make it into the report." Marcus unfolded the paper. Angela's car. Doors locked from inside. No signs of struggle, radio still on, tuned to station she never listened to. Odometer showed 47 extra miles. Depot is 8 miles from diner. Found muddy footprints on driver's side floor. Size 11 men's boot. Angela wore size 7. Marcus looked up. "I don't know what happened to Angela," Danny said, "but I know it wasn't what the sheriff says it was." "Why are you helping me?" Danny glanced back at the station. "Because Angela was kind to me. When I first moved to town, didn't know anybody. She'd always smile and remember my name. And because," he hesitated, "because something's wrong here. Has been for a while. I just don't know what." "Deputy Collins. Retired last year. Moved to Florida. Won't return calls." Danny met his eyes. "Be careful, Marcus. You start pulling threads in this town, you might not like what unravels." The Bluebird Diner sat on Main Street between the pharmacy and the bank. Marcus had eaten there 100 times. Burgers and fries, and Angela's favorite cherry pie. He walked in at 6 p.m., right in the middle of the dinner rush. The smell hit him first. Grease and coffee and something sweet baking in the back. Normal. Everything looked so normal. A waitress he didn't recognize showed him to a booth by the window. He ordered coffee he didn't want and waited. 10 minutes later, Linda Shaw emerged from the kitchen. She'd been managing the diner for 15 years, had hired Angela right out of high school. She was in her mid-40s, tired eyes, quick hands, the kind of woman who knew everyone's business and most of their secrets. She saw Marcus and went very still. Then she walked over, poured him more coffee, and sat down across from him without asking. "You look like hell," she said. "Thanks. War do that to you or something else?" Marcus wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. "Tell me about December 15th. Linda's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "What about it?" "Angela worked that night. You were her boss. You must remember." "I remember." And she left at 11. Same as always. Got in her car, drove away. That's all I know. That's all you know. That's what I said. Marcus leaned forward. "Linda, I'm not the police. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to know what happened to the woman I love. And I think you know more than you're saying. Even the strongest hearts can break in silence." Linda looked out the window. Evening was coming on. Street lights starting to glow. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "She was scared, Marcus." "Scared of what?" "I don't know. But the last 2 weeks she worked here, she kept looking over her shoulder, jumping at sounds. One night, I found her in the storage room crying. Asked her what was wrong. She said she was fine. But she wasn't fine." "Did she say anything? Anything at all?" Linda hesitated. Then, the night she disappeared, right before she left, she asked me if I believed in doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything. "What did you say?" I said yes. Always. Linda met his eyes. Then she hugged me, and she said, "I hope I'm brave enough." Marcus felt ice spreading through his veins. "Brave enough for what?" "I don't know. She left right after that. I watched her walk to her car. I watched her drive away." Linda's voice cracked. "I should have stopped her. This isn't your fault, isn't it?" She stood up. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm sorry I don't have better answers." She walked back to the kitchen before Marcus could respond. He sat there for a long time, coffee going cold, watching the town move past the window. "I hope I'm brave enough." Brave enough for what? Just when they thought it was over. Marcus was halfway to his truck when he heard the voice. "Marcus Reid?" He turned. An old man stood in the alley beside the diner, thin as a rail, wearing work clothes covered in grease stains. "Yeah?" "Name's Porter. Earl Porter. I was taking out the trash that night, the night the Monroe girl disappeared." Marcus walked closer. "You saw something?" "Maybe. I saw Angela's car leave at 11, and I saw another car leave right after her, followed her out of the parking lot. What kind of car? Black Chevrolet. Impala, I think. 69 or 70. Did you see who was driving? Earl Porter looked around nervously. No, but I saw the plates. He pulled a wrinkled napkin from his pocket and handed it to Marcus. On it, written in shaky pencil, MG 417. I told the sheriff. You know what he said? What? He said I was mistaken. Said I must have seen some other car some other night. Earl's voice hardened. But I know what I saw. Thank you, Marcus said. Earl nodded and started to walk away, then turned back. One more thing. That car? I seen it before. Parked behind the sheriff's station more than once. Marcus drove to his mother's house in a daze. She'd left the porch light on for him, and when he walked through the door, she threw her arms around him and cried into his shoulder. My boy, she whispered. My beautiful boy. You're home. He held her, breathing in the smell of her perfume, and cooking, and home. I'm home, Mama. They sat at the kitchen table, and she fed him, fried chicken and collard greens and cornbread and sweet tea, and asked him careful questions about the war that he answered with careful lies. She didn't mention Angela until he did. I'm going to find her, he said. His mother's hands went still on her coffee cup. Baby, she didn't run away. Something happened to her, and I'm going to find out what. Marcus, the sheriff said, the sheriff's lying. The words hung between them. His mother was a strong woman, had raised Marcus alone after his father died, had worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, had stood up to neighbors who didn't like seeing a black woman succeed without a man. But now she looked afraid. Marcus, please, let it go. I can't. You don't understand how things work here now. You've been gone and everything's... She struggled for words. Harder. More complicated. Who? She didn't answer. Mama, who? The phone rang. They both jumped. His mother stared at the phone on the wall like it was a snake. It rang again. And again. Marcus stood and answered it. Hello? Silence. But not empty silence. Breathing. Someone on the other end, listening. Who is this? Marcus demanded. A voice, low and distorted. Stop asking questions about Angela Monroe. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. Who is this? You came home from the war. Be grateful. Don't go looking for another one. If you hurt her, she hurt herself. Stuck her nose where it didn't belong. You're making the same mistake. Where is she? Silence. Then, some people disappear, Marcus. Best to let them stay disappeared. The line went dead. The voice on the phone had whispered something no one could forget, and Marcus was about to make a choice that would change everything. Marcus stood there with the receiver in his hand, listening to the dial tone. His mother was crying. They're going to hurt you, she said. Baby, please, please just let it go. I can't. Marcus, she's out there, Mama, somewhere, and she needs help. He couldn't finish the sentence. I loved her. I love her still. His mother wiped her eyes. I know, but loving someone doesn't mean you can save them. Maybe not, but I have to try. Marcus waited until midnight. Then he drove to the old train depot where Angela's car had been found. It was a small building, weathered wood and broken windows, sitting at the end of a gravel road. The train tracks were rusted, overgrown with weeds. The moon was nearly full, casting everything in silver and shadow. Marcus parked his truck and got out. The air was cold, carrying the smell of earth and decay. He stood where Angela's car had been and closed his eyes, trying to picture it. The car with its keys in the ignition, radio playing, doors locked from the inside. How do you lock car doors from the inside and then disappear? He opened his eyes and looked around. And then he saw it. A light, small, flickering, deep in the woods. His training kicked in immediately. The careful movement, the controlled breathing. He moved toward the light, stepping carefully, making no noise. As he got closer, he smelled smoke, heard voices. He crouched behind a tree and looked. A clearing. 5 men standing around a fire, talking in low voices. Sheriff Dawson, Deputy Collins, the one who supposedly moved to Florida, and 3 other men Marcus didn't recognize. Wait! Don't miss this detail. One of the men was holding something, a folder, papers. He was pointing at them, talking urgently. Dawson shook his head. The man raised his voice. "Can't keep covering this up. Lower your voice," Dawson snapped. "Too many people asking questions. Then we handle it like we handled the girl." Silence fell over the clearing. Marcus's blood turned to ice. "Like we handled the girl." The man with the folder threw it on the ground. "I'm done. I want out." Dawson moved fast. He grabbed the man by his shirt, pulled him close. "You're out when I say you're out. You knew what this was when you signed on." "I didn't sign on for this. She's not dead." The words echoed through the clearing. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. "She's not dead." "Then where is she?" the man demanded. Dawson smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Somewhere she can't talk. Somewhere no one will ever find her. And that's how it's going to stay." As Marcus watched from the shadows, his mind was racing. Angela was alive. She was alive. But where? Marcus stayed in the woods long after the men left. His mind was reeling, heart pounding. Whatever Angela had stumbled onto, it involved the sheriff, multiple deputies. They were covering something up, something big enough to make a woman disappear. He waited until he was sure they were gone, then crept into the clearing. The fire was dying. The folder the man had thrown down was still there. Marcus picked it up. Inside, dozens of documents, financial records, property deeds, names and dates and dollar amounts. Certain phrases jumped out. Illegal land seizure, falsified records, Monroe family property, 140 acres. Marcus's heart stopped. Angela's family property. Someone was stealing land from black families in Greenwood, using false documents and corrupt officials to force people off property they'd owned for generations. And Angela had found out. You won't believe what happened next. Marcus heard the sound of an engine. He spun around, folder clutched in his hand, and saw headlights cutting through the trees, coming fast. They'd circled back. They'd seen him. He ran. Behind him, car doors slammed, voices shouted, footsteps crashed through the undergrowth. Marcus ran like he'd run through the jungle, fast and low and silent, using the trees for cover. A gunshot cracked through the night. Marcus dove behind a fallen log. Another shot, closer this time. "Marcus Reid," Dawson's voice. "We know it's you. Come out and we can talk about this." Marcus didn't move. "You're just like that girl, too smart for your own good." Marcus waited, counted heartbeats, listened. He knew how to survive this. He moved. Marcus made it back to his truck by cutting through the cemetery. He drove fast, lights off, taking back roads until he was sure he'd lost them. His hands were shaking on the wheel. He drove to Danny's apartment above the hardware store. He pounded on the door. Danny answered, eyes wide. "Marcus? What? Let me in." Inside, Marcus spread the documents on Danny's kitchen table, told him everything. The phone call, the meeting in the woods, what Dawson had said, what the papers proved. Danny read through them, his face going paler with each page. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Angela found this," Marcus said. "That's why they took her. We have to go to the FBI, or the state police." "With what?" "I stole these. It's the sheriff's word against mine." Marcus's voice was bitter. "Who do you think they'll believe?" Danny sat down hard. "So what do? "We find her," he said. "We find Angela. Then we burn this whole thing down." "How do we find her?" "Dawson said she's somewhere she can't talk, somewhere no one will find her." Marcus thought hard. "What places are hidden? Isolated?" Danny's eyes widened. "The old Hartley place." "What?" "Hartley farmhouse, 20 miles outside town. Been abandoned for years, owned by some company." Danny grabbed one of the documents. "Look, Hartley property, acquired 1971, same company that's stealing the land." Marcus felt electricity run through him. "That's where she is. You don't know." "I know." He stood. "I need your help." Danny looked at him for a long moment. Then he stood too. "What do you need?" That's when everything changed. Again. They drove out to the Hartley place just before dawn. Danny brought his service weapon. Marcus brought a crowbar and every ounce of courage he had left. The farmhouse, sat at the end of a long dirt road, surrounded by dead fields, white paint peeling, porch sagging. But there was a car parked out back, a black Chevrolet Impala, license plate MG417. Marcus and Danny looked at each other. "She's here," Marcus breathed. They approached carefully. The back door opened with a gentle push. Inside, the house smelled of mildew and rot. And then Marcus heard it, a sound from upstairs, faint, rhythmic, tapping. Someone was knocking, a pattern. Marcus knew that pattern. It was Morse code. He took the stairs 2 at a time. The tapping was coming from behind a locked door at the end of the hall. Marcus hit the door with his shoulder, once, twice. On the third hit, it splintered open. And there she was. When the door opened, what they saw took their breath away. Angela Monroe sat on a thin mattress in the corner. She was thin, too thin, wearing the same clothes she'd disappeared in, now dirty and torn. Her hair was matted. Her eyes were huge in her gaunt face. But she was alive. She looked at Marcus like she was seeing a ghost. "Marcus?" Her voice was barely a whisper. He crossed the room in 2 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her. "I'm here. I've got you." She touched his face with shaking hands, like she couldn't believe he was real. "You came back." "Of course I came back." She started crying. Great, wrenching sobs. Marcus pulled her into his arms and held her. Danny stood in the doorway, keeping watch. "We need to get her out of here," he said quietly. "I know." Marcus helped Angela stand. She could barely walk. He ended up carrying her. They made it halfway down the stairs before they heard the cars. Danny looked out the window. 3 cars. "Dawson's here." Marcus set Angela down gently. "Take her out the back. Get to the truck. Drive to the next county and find the state police. What about you?" "I'll slow them down." "Marcus! Danny, look at me." Marcus met his eyes. "Get her safe. That's all that matters. Promise me." Danny's jaw tightened. Then he nodded. "I promise." He helped Angela toward the back, while Marcus went to the front door. Outside, Sheriff Dawson stood in the yard with his men. They all had guns. Marcus opened the door and stepped out onto the porch. Empty-handed, calm. "Marcus Reid," Dawson said. "You just don't learn, do you? I learned plenty. Like how you've been stealing land from black families, how you made Angela disappear when she found out. That girl was a problem. That girl's name is Angela Monroe, and she's a human being." Dawson laughed. "You think anyone's going to believe you? You're nobody. A grunt who couldn't keep it together in Vietnam." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But she'll be safe, and that's enough." Dawson's expression changed. "Where is she?" "Gone." "You're lying." Marcus smiled. "Guess you'll have to come up here and find out." Just when they thought it was over, Marcus Reid made the bravest choice of his life. What happened next lasted maybe 3 minutes, but felt like hours. Dawson and his men rushed the house. Marcus fought them in the doorway, not with a gun, but with his hands and his training and his desperate need to buy Angela time. He took down 2 deputies before someone hit him from behind. He went to his knees, vision swimming. Heard Dawson shouting, "Find the girl!" But she was gone. Danny was fast and smart. She was safe. Someone hit him again. The world tilted. He tasted blood. Heard sirens. Wait, sirens? Suddenly there were more cars. Different uniforms. State police. And Danny's voice. "They're here. I called the FBI." Marcus tried to focus. Saw Dawson's face. Pale, shocked, furious. Saw Danny. Pointing, talking fast. Saw Angela in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket, alive. And then everything went dark. Marcus woke up in the hospital with broken ribs, a concussion, and his mother holding his hand. "Am I dead?" he asked. She laughed and cried at the same time. "No, baby. You're alive." Angela came to see him the next day. She looked better, color in her face, weight coming back. She sat in the chair next to his bed and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You came home from war and walked right into another one, for me." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I'd do it again." "I know." She smiled. That's what scares me. They sat in silence. Then Angela said, "They're all going to prison. Dawson, Collins, the others. The FBI found records of 17 families they'd stolen land from. Good. None of it would have happened without you. Or Danny. Or you. You found the evidence." Angela looked down. "I was working at the county clerk's office, filing papers. I saw the signatures, recognized the forgeries, started digging." Her voice went quiet. "I was going to mail everything to the FBI, but they found out first. They kept you in that house for 3 months. I thought about you every day. Thought about your letters. Thought about how you'd come home and I wouldn't be there. I never thought you left me. Not for a second. Liar." But she smiled. "We've all been there, facing a choice we never wanted to make." A week after Marcus got out of the hospital, he and Angela sat on the porch of his mother's house, watching the sun set. "I'm leaving," Angela said suddenly. Marcus looked at her. "What?" "I can't stay here. Too many memories." She took a breath. "My sister Ruth is in Chicago. She says I can stay with her, start over." "Okay, when?" 2 weeks. Silence. Then, "Come with me." Marcus stared at her. "What?" "Come with me. To Chicago. We can both start over, leave this place behind." Marcus thought about Greenwood, about the stares and whispers, about the nightmares that still woke him, some from the war, some from the farmhouse. He thought about staying, and he thought about leaving. "Yes," he said. Angela blinked. "Yes? Yes, I'll come with you." She started crying, but this time it was different. Relief, joy, hope. She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and they watched the sun disappear, turning the sky orange and gold. "I still have it," Angela said softly. "Have what?" She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. His letter. "I read it every night I was in that house," she said. "Reminded myself you were real, that I had something to survive for." Marcus took the letter, unfolded it. "My dearest Angela, I'm coming home soon, I promise. And when I do, I'm going to hold you and never let go. We're going to have the life we talked about. I love you with everything I am. Wait for me. Forever yours, Marcus." He folded it again, handed it back. "I kept my promise," he said. "Yeah," she smiled. "You did." Marcus Reid and Angela Monroe left Greenwood in June of 1973. They moved to Chicago, got married that fall, and built the life they'd dreamed about. 3 children, 5 grandchildren. A garden Angela tended every summer. Sheriff Tom Dawson was convicted of fraud, conspiracy, and kidnapping. He died in prison in 1989. Danny Lawson left the police department and became a civil rights investigator. He and Marcus stayed friends for the rest of their lives. Marcus kept Angela's final letter in his wallet until the day he died in 2019. Angela still has all 43 letters he sent her from Vietnam in a box under their bed. "I never met Marcus Reid, but his daughter sent me these recordings, and as I listened to his voice, I realized something. We all have moments that define us, moments where we choose between safety and courage, between silence and truth. Marcus chose courage, again and again. And because he did, Angela Monroe got to come home. That's all any of us can hope for, really. To find someone who'll walk through fire to bring us home, or to be that person for someone else. This is Evelyn Brooks, signing off from Echoes of 1970. Thank you for listening. And remember, the past is never really past. It echoes, waiting for someone brave enough to listen.